Well, here's a little report on our Bowron Lake Canoe trip we just got off a little while ago. There's the starting point and the map that shows everything. When you get there, they give you a map that has all the woodlots marked on where you can pick up firewood along the way. You have a little orientation. They weigh the gear you want to put in your canoe. Can't have more than 60 pounds in your canoe. And then you head down the trail, the first big portage. We got by a bunch of people at the end of the portage, headed down into the first little Kibbe Lake, and then across another portage into Indian Point Lake. And then ultimately we worked our way through and got onto the arm of Isaac Lake, and I'd recommend doing that, getting right onto Isaac Lake. Otherwise, you have a long portage to start your day. So it's nice to get those ugly portages over with, and then you have 30-some kilometers of Isaac Lake to take a day or two or whatever you like to do. This is still working our way into Isaac Lake. And there it is. There's our campsite. Campsite 12 on Isaac Lake. 11 or 12 would have been fine. Some were in 11 already. The next morning, heading right along the shoreline towards the northeast corner of Isaac Lake. Just a spectacular morning. And the biggest problem we really had on this trip was it was super hot every day, which is a complaint I think a lot of people would like to have about their canoe trips. That's looking down South Isaac Lake, view that you see a lot of. That's a zoom in on that. Continuing towards the corner, northeast corner. Now working our way down the lake. Water is amazingly clear. You could see fish all the time. We typically shoreline. We don't like going far from shore. We like to see stuff along the shore. It's just far more interesting. Here's a big slide. You can see it looks like a cat came through, ripped the soil right off. Ended up camping in site 26. That's a long day. Beautiful site though. Caught a whack of fish on every other cast or so. Got one nice rainbow, about 4 pounds. Next morning, continuing to head south on Isaac the last few kilometers. That's a good way to start the day. Same old view, never got old. See it for hours through the 2 days. That's looking back. Wood carvings, the guys from Vancouver, engineers going through the chute. They said it was actually lower than it had been, or the waves were, because the water was high. But it came earlier in the year, I guess it was completely smooth. The problem is when you see they get caught in the back end here and have a spin, which anybody who's canoed knows this is a little bit dangerous. That can flip so easy. And just down from them, there's what's called the roller coaster, which is typically less serious than the chute, but because of the change in water, the roller coaster was actually rougher. And we actually had a close call in there, as did they. Here we are finally through McCleary Lake, through the portages below the falls, now into the Caribou River, which as you can see is moving fairly fast as we work our way towards Lanese. Those mountains are on the side of Lanese. Last little bit, just stopping and enjoying the current, taking a break in the heat. It was hot. Hot every day. Coming into Lanese, and then pulling to campsite 34. There's a group site there as well. We could have parked there for a week. Just spectacular. Really nice place to camp. Lots of sites, a shelter if you need it. Didn't catch any fish there. Didn't fish that hard. Just kind of sat and looked at the water. Next morning, heading along Lanese. Quite a few places we came across. There's still some snow in the slides, and then there'd be a water tunnel underneath, pretty cool. This is just one of my favorite pictures of the trip. Into Sandy Lake. This one was just dead calm apart from us. If we wouldn't have paddled it, there would not have been a wave. Some of the pictures just absolute mirrors. Good moose territory. Portage from Sandy. We didn't go down to Una Lake, which a lot of people do. We portage into Babcock Lake, and then ultimately Little Skoy Lake, and then into Spectacle Lakes, where we ended up camping at Site 45 on a point of land. Another beautiful spot. This is one side or the other of Skoy. I can't remember which one. Here we are at Site 45. Heard wolves all night. They were so close at one point we could hear them snarling and yipping as they were scrapping over something. I think this is a view from the outhouse, actually. Pretty decent outhouse view. Next morning, we woke up to the sound of thunder at 4:55. Decided to get going. The storm just stayed ahead of us the whole way. Sky was a little darker, but it was still calm, and it still got very hot. Coming through the marsh before Bowron Lake. It's after Swan Lake. Spectacular area to paddle through. Didn't see any moose. We weren't the first ones through that day. You could imagine seeing them in there. We heard wolves actually as we were going through here. Coming up to the end of the channel, very well marked into Bowron Lake. To head up around that point to the right. Got to the dock, tied our boat up, and it actually started raining. The first rain of the whole trip, which a lot of people I know would have liked to have that kind of trip. This is the picture for me that kind of sums it all up. When all was said and done, our total paddling time on the trip, I believe, was about 26 hours. That included portaging, paddling, sitting there having a drink of water, food. So it wasn't a hard paddle. We're usually paddling faster than you saw Kristen paddling there. When she's not on camera, she paddles like a machine. And if there's any canoe in sight in front of us, behind us, she puts her head down and goes. So it was a moderate pace, but we did her in the 4 days, 26 hours. Spectacular trip. If you want to know anything about the trip or any tips on different campsites and things, feel free to hunt me down and give me a buzz. Highly recommend it.